You know, usually when we think about like the end of the world or some kind of grand divine intervention, we imagine fire and brimstone.
Oh, definitely. The classic chaos and destruction.
Right. We picture choirs of angels, trumpets sounding, the sky just splitting wide open. It's supposed to be dramatic, loud, cinematic.
Yeah, it's always portrayed as this massive, completely chaotic spectacle.
But imagine if, instead of a trumpet, the apocalypse arrived as a beautifully formatted, aggressively polite memo.
A terrifying concept.
Seriously, think about the last time you were trapped in an automated customer service phone tree, just screaming representative into your phone in utter despair.
We have all been there.
Now imagine that phone tree dictates whether your soul gets audited. I mean, imagine getting a parking ticket, but it's issued by heaven, enforced by a drone made entirely out of holy language, and the fine is, like, your literal soul.
It is the absolute definition of a bureaucratic nightmare, just elevated to a cosmic scale.
And that is exactly the incredible, mind-bending reality we are plunging into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Thrilled to be talking about this one.
We have a massive stack of excerpts in front of us, and our mission today is to explore the absolute masterpiece that is Fallen Grace by Avarin Voss.
Such a brilliant piece of work.
It really is. It's part of the Seventh Heaven War series, and I have to tell you, I am utterly obsessed. I am in full fan mode for this universe right now.
I don't blame you at all. It is a remarkably unique take on urban fantasy and romance. The world building alone is incredibly dense.
Yeah.
Blending the mundane aspects of like regular city living with this terrifyingly rigid divine magic.
We are going to get you absolutely hyped to read this book, and we are going to do it completely spoiler-free.
Yes, no major spoilers today.
None. We won't give away how the final showdown wraps up or the exact details of the twist, but we are going to explore the mechanics of this world because it is just too good not to share. So, let's set the premise. We start with Aurelia. She's an exiled wingless angel who literally crashes into a rainy, garbage-filled alley in Shadwell, East London.
It's quite the entrance.
Right. And she is in pure agony, hiding her missing wings behind a magical glamour that takes, like, every single ounce of her willpower to maintain.
And she is found in that alley by Cassian Ward. Now, Cassian is a detective for the Metropolitan Police, but he's also they call it a former.
The former, yeah.
Right. A witness and choir-trained angel who deliberately fell from grace on purpose.
Wait, before we go further, what exactly does choir-trained mean in this universe? Because when I hear choir, I just picture, people in robes singing hymns on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah. It's a great distinction to make. In Voss's world, the choir isn't a musical group at all. It is essentially heaven's militant special forces.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they have a tactical unit of divine enforcement. And because Cassian was trained in that environment before he defected, he tracks angelic magic differently. Well, he doesn't look for glowing lights or sparkly auras.
Yeah.
He actually feels magic as environmental interference.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't it? When an angelic rite is being executed nearby, he feels it like feedback fuzz on a microphone or a sudden drop in barometric pressure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the contrast between this rigid, controlling system of heaven and the deeply personal, messy relationship between our two main characters is really the beating heart of the book.
Oh, for sure.
Heaven operates as this ruthless, celestial corporate bureaucracy. I mean, they issue audits, they draft writs, they record minutes.
Very corporate.
Heaven is basically a terrifying enforcement agency that wants to turn human beings into line items on a ledger.
And that system is exactly why Aurelia and Cassian are so compelling to read. Neither of them are these triumphant, shiny heroes ready to save the world.
Not at all.
They are exhausted. They are outcasts who are honestly just trying to survive the day. Aurelia is deeply traumatized, but she is fiercely stubborn.
Yeah, she is.
Heaven's official record literally classifies her as an artifact-like, an object meant for disposal, and she violently refuses to be treated as a thing.
She has so much grit. I mean, she's dragging herself through alleys smelling of burnt feathers and engine oil just to stay off the celestial radar.
Exactly.
And Cassian is this steady, incredibly observant presence. He uses his mundane police skills combined with his angelic senses to read the city's pain.
They make such a great team.
They really do. They are so relatable because they're just two damaged people pushing against a massive institutional machine that wants them erased. But the magic that connects them, oh my gosh, the chemistry is off the charts.
It really is.
They shared this literal soul bond.
What's fascinating here is how the author takes the classic fantasy trope of a magical bond and turns it into a rigorous exploration of agency.
Right.
Visually, the bond manifests as this glowing filament, a rope of light connecting them. But they also have a magical mirror book called the Counterfile.
I loved the Counterfile.
It's brilliant. If one writes in it, the words magically appear in the other's book.
I was thinking about it like, it's not your typical fated mate trope where destiny just forces two people together and they have absolutely no choice in the matter.
Not at all.
It's more like a joint bank account for magic and trauma. Both of their names are on it, but you can't just swipe the debit card whenever you want. They have to actively authorize every single transaction.
That is a perfect analogy. The author makes consent the absolute core of their romance and their survival.
Yes.
Heaven dictates commands and forces compliance. But before Cassian or Aurelia ever tap into their shared bond to share strength, or before they even write in that counterfile, Cassian always asks one simple word: consent.
And Aurelia always has to answer yes.
Exactly.
I love that dynamic so much, but I have to admit I was stressing out reading it.
Oh, it gets so tense.
Because the cost of this magic is terribly high. They don't just lose physical energy, they literally share the cost by sacrificing their own cherished memories.
Right, the memories are the fuel.
If they need to override a divine writ, the bond takes a memory. Aurelia sacrifices the memory of her first sword drill praise-like, a moment of pride she deeply cherished.
It's heartbreaking.
I mean, if they are constantly paying with their own core memories, wouldn't they eventually forget who they are? How is that sustainable?
That is exactly the terrifying risk they take, and it's why the bond requires such absolute radical trust. Every time they use their magic, they are slowly eroding their own identities.
Wow.
They are gambling that what they save each other, their found family, their city, is worth more than the pieces of their past they are burning up.
Yeah.
It is profoundly unsustainable in the long run, which puts a massive ticking clock on their survival.
Just imagine that for a second. Imagine the vulnerability of giving someone else complete access to your mind, to your pain, and willingly letting go of the things that make you, well, you, just to keep each other safe.
It's a huge sacrifice.
It makes this romance feel so intensely intimate. It's not just about physical chemistry. It's about choosing each other over and over at a massive personal cost.
This raises an important question, though. We have these two outcasts, heavily damaged and running out of memories to burn. How do they actually fight an entirely institutionalized divinity?
Well, and you can't fight a municipal bureaucracy in a vacuum, which is where the villains come in, and they are so chilling because they are so aggressively mundane.
Yes. No dark lord sitting in a tower.
Exactly. There is no evil wizard. The villain is upstairs. It's bureaucrats. You have the custodian who wears a black thread bracelet that bites him to remind him of duty.
And he genuinely believes that correction is mercy.
Ugh, so creepy. You have the registrar, who is literal minutes-made person, constantly keeping precedent, and the archivist, who uses grammar and verbs as weapons.
They are the ultimate embodiment of institutional apathy. To them, a kindness that erases names is a completely valid tool.
Right.
They don't hate humanity. They just want to balance the books.
Yeah.
And if human free will causes a discrepancy in the ledger, then free will has to be audited.
So to fight that, Aurelia and Cassian accidentally assemble what might be my favorite ensemble cast in recent memory.
Oh, they are fantastic.
A fiercely loyal, completely chaotic found family. Because they are fighting municipal rules, they need people who understand the city, like Inspector Sarah Okonkwo.
She is a powerhouse.
She is this badass, sharp-suited cop who basically adopts Cassian and Aurelia, and she fights magical audits using literal public receipts and red tape.
She is brilliant. She weaponizes bureaucracy right back at them.
Tell them about the spear.
Oh, right. When heaven launches a divine spear of holy language at them in the middle of a street, Sarah doesn't try to block it with a magical shield.
No.
She gets on a police megaphone and officially labels the supernatural attack a public safety exercise.
I laughed out loud at that.
She uses municipal authority to spin the narrative, which actually weakens the divine magic because heaven's magic relies on absolute unquestioned truth. By creating a bureaucratic alternative fact, she introduces doubt into the spell.
I love that so much. And then you have the librarian, a rogue academic, who uses a ruined combat umbrella to catch divine prayers falling from the sky.
So inventive.
And Beanie. We cannot forget Beanie, the junior journalist, street archivist, always wearing a beanie hat.
A fan favorite, for sure.
But wait, I have to ask you about this because I didn't fully grasp the mechanics here. Beanie is always live streaming these angelic attacks, and because they are so genre aware, Beanie is constantly narrating the danger using literary tropes.
Yes, constantly narrated.
Like they are running from a celestial drone and Beanie is yelling, cliffhanger, or calling their mission a found family field trip.
Oh.
Is that just a hilarious coping mechanism, or does that actually do something to the magic?
It absolutely does something to the magic. It's one of the most clever systems in the book.
Yeah.
Remember, Heaven's magic is based on rigid formulas and unyielding categorization.
Okay, right.
They want everything to fit neatly into a pre-approved box.
Right.
Well, Beanie's narrative awareness actively counters those divine audits.
Oh, I see.
By loudly categorizing their real-life trauma as a literary trope, Beanie is hacking the system.
Wow.
The angelic drones get confused because Beanie is taking control of the categorization process.
Wow.
Beanie disrupts the magical algorithm simply by naming the trope before the angels can file the event away in their own ledger.
That is brilliant. It brings this amazing, heartwarming atmosphere right into the middle of these terrifying life or death stakes.
It really balances the tone.
They are a scrappy found family using bolt cutters, broken umbrellas, and genre tropes to fight policy. And because Sarah and Beanie rely on civic rules and public perception, the actual infrastructure of London becomes their primary battlefield.
Exactly. The author brings London to life in a way that feels incredibly tactile. The setting itself becomes a character, an active participant in this war.
For sure.
The River Thames isn't just a body of water. It's an old, grumpy witness with a baptismal temper that literally eats bad writs.
Yes. When Heaven drops one of those language spears, the river just reaches up and swallows it like a frog catching a fly.
It's such a great visual.
But the villains use the city's infrastructure, too. They operate this massive stencil ring. Can you explain how that stencil magic actually works? Because it was seriously creeping me out.
It is deeply unsettling. The angels of upstairs realize they can't just smite the city without drawing too much attention. So they use the supply chain, the mundane distribution networks of a modern city.
Sneaky.
Very. They paint these sigil circles with inward teeth, bisected by a forked line on smart bins, bus stops, the undersides of bridges.
Right.
These sigils act like little magical leeches. Whenever a human walks past a bus stop and feels a fleeting moment of hope or grace, that stencil silently consumes it.
Oh, that's awful.
It funnels it back to Heaven to power their audits.
Yeah.
It's the insidious weaponization of everyday infrastructure.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the book doesn't just stay in the gritty modern streets of London. It brilliantly clashes this modern municipal magic with ancient folkloric power.
Yeah, the scope really expands.
They have to travel to these ancient sites to find loopholes in Heaven's laws. For example, they go to Newgrange in Ireland.
Yes, the ancient passage tomb. In the real world, Newgrange is famous because during the winter solstice, a beam of sunlight perfectly illuminates the inner chamber. In the book, Voss takes that real-world mythology and twists it. The archivist attempts to use that literal, highly concentrated beam of solstice sunlight as a cosmic ledger.
That is wild.
They try to use the alignment of the stars and the architecture of the tomb to physically cross Aurelia's name out of existence.
It's such a crazy concept. And then they travel to Glastonbury Tor. They find out there are invisible song lines acting as magical tripwires across the landscape.
And again, the mechanics there are fascinating. To access a hidden door at the Tor, Cassian and Aurelia can't just cast an unlocking spell.
No.
They have to perfectly align their movements with this ancient melody. Right. They literally have to step on the physical manifestations of musical notes.
Like a dance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Walking perfectly in tune with the Earth's frequency, otherwise the tripwires will alert upstairs. It's a stunning blend of deep mythology and modern grit.
It's so visceral, you can almost hear the hum of the magic. But bringing it all back to London, there's this massive climax building throughout the excerpts we reviewed.
The tension is incredible.
The upstairs machine is tired of the resistance, and they try to force the entire city into submission. Heaven drops these glowing bureaucratic minutes from the sky, attempting to drape the physical word "stay" over the population.
They want everyone docile, filed away, obedient, stuck in place.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the thematic resonance of the entire series peaks. The Found family realizes they can't just erase Heaven's narrative with a counterspell.
Because you can't out-bureaucrat a celestial bureaucracy.
Exactly, you have to override it. They take the magic of the angelic minutes, and they use Cassian and Aurelia's soul bond as an amplifier.
Right.
Then they use Inspector Sarah's public municipal authority to broadcast a completely different message. They change the verb.
Yeah.
They actively rejects the command to stay.
They broadcast the word stand and hold, and suddenly the screens on treadmills and gyms, the digital banners on the embankment, the smartphones in millions of people's pockets, they all flash the word stand.
It's such a powerful moment.
And the public actually does it. They stand. Strangers help strangers. But how does that actually protect them? Does the word itself create a force field?
Not exactly. The word is just a catalyst. The magical shield is powered by human belief and sheer civic stubbornness.
I love that, civic stubbornness.
Upstairs operates on the assumption that humans are solitary line items that will naturally isolate themselves when threatened. But when the city stands together, that collective defiance creates a massive disruption in heaven's ledger.
It breaks the system.
The math doesn't compute anymore. Their shared humanity, their refusal to just look away while their neighbors are audited, becomes a physical, impenetrable barrier against the divine magic.
That is so powerful. It's a profound statement on community. When the bureaucratic heavens refuse to listen, you just have to make your own storm down on Earth.
Precisely. The book is ultimately about redefining public spaces and reclaiming your own narrative from systems that want to process you into nothing more than data.
Okay, I know I'm hiking this up, but it really is that good. The world building is just phenomenal.
It truly is.
But remember, we are not spoiling how the Found family actually survives these final audits. We aren't going to tell you the ultimate fate of the custodian or what happens when Cassian and Aurelia's slow burn chemistry finally reaches its absolute boiling point.
No. You have to experience that for yourself.
The mystery of how they navigate that soul bond, whether they run out of memories and whether they ever find peace, you have to read that for yourself.
Absolutely. The tension, both magical and romantic, is masterfully paced. You will want to read every single page of that resolution firsthand, discovering it just as the characters do.
So consider this my massive screaming from the rooftops fangirl recommendation. You need to go grab your copy right now or pre-order it immediately if you haven't already.
Highly recommend it.
You can find Fallen Grace and the rest of the Seventh Heaven War series at www.silvergravitybooks.com. I promise you, once you start, you will not be able to put it down. Again, that is www.silvergravitybooks.com.
It is a genuinely thrilling read that will completely change the way you look at a city street or is simple public notice.
So what does this all mean? We spent the last few minutes talking about winged angels, magical bureaucracy, chaotic found families, and joint bank accounts for trauma.
A lot of ground covered.
But stripping all the fantasy and the magic away, the core of this book feels incredibly relevant to our actual lives.
Indeed. Voss is using this fantastical setup to ask us to examine the invisible systems we live within every single day.
Right.
The digital algorithms, the corporate policies, the endless terms of service and fine print that subtly try to dictate our movements, our choices, and our connections.
Exactly. In our own modern world, where so much feels dictated by that invisible red tape, what would your personal verb of resistance be?
That's the real question.
If a magical minutes taker suddenly appeared in front of you and asked you to choose one single word to define your stance against the machine, what would you choose? Because at the end of the day, when the bureaucratic nightmare of life tries to hand you a parking ticket for your soul, you're going to need a word that bites back.